Hi, this is Jason Nickleby, Coordinator of Officials with the Minnesota State High School League, and this is basketball officiating training tape number 2. We're going to take a look at some plays involving transition mechanics, some positioning pieces, and then we will take a look at mechanics for helping our partners on 2 versus 3 and out of bounds. So with that, we'll take a look at some plays. Again, not picking on any one official or crew or team or player, just trying to take a look at plays and positioning mechanics, philosophy, and how we can pull them all together to be better each time out. So with that, we'll take a look at some plays. On this play, I want to take a look at the mechanics and positioning of the lead. You'll see that the ball is at the top of the key. It comes out to bench side, and the lead moves out to mirror the ball, which is our expectation of the lead. This is what we want to see. He's looking into the paint, which is his primary coverage area, and it talks about the movement of the lead for 3-person on page 133 and 134 of the Mechanics Illustrated, and it talks about mirroring the ball. Now, if it goes past the 3-point line, we're not going to go out that far. We're going to stop at the 3-point line extended, but we would pinch the paint and close down just like the lead is here when the ball is in between the lane lines or when it moves out beyond the lane line, which will allow us to flex easier and rotate. So 2-person coverage from the lead and positioning is covered on page 56 through 58, and it talks about how we would get ball side, and if we mirror the ball and then pinch the paint, close down, and then move across, we could have 2 officials on the same side of the court, which is fine in 2-person, but these coverages are covered in the illustrated, and the point is, as a lead, we would like you to mirror the ball. Leads, the only thing I'd say is open up your shoulders a little bit. We want to make sure we have a wide view of the court. If we close our shoulders and close off our view, we may not be able to assist anything outside of our peripheral vision. But overall, this is good positioning and mirroring of the ball and exactly what we want to see mechanically from the lead. On this play, we have a throw-in in the front court opposite the bench. Trail is ready to chop, and lead is in good position. We have a throw-in right at the lane line, so we're in appropriate position to begin the play. This initial positioning for the throw-in is covered on page 174 of the Mechanics Illustrated as it relates to 3-person. Trail will chop the clock when it's touched legally in bounds, as well as the lead. So we're in good initial position, as well as at the time of the shot by both the center and lead positions. They are in position to assist. So we have a good goal. It's signaled as a 3-point attempt by the trail. Now, trails, positioning-wise, let's take a look at page 144 and 145 of the Mechanics Illustrated, and it talks about moving yourself so that you can see space between the ball handler and the defender, and that may mean moving below the matchup or above it so that you can assist. I would say in this case we would want to work down towards the 28-foot line. That way when it comes back out to him from the post, we have a good look at the feet, and we can also rule on any contact. Now, it's signaled as a 3, and the center official comes across and helps. He doesn't go up with the initial attempt, which is correct, but he can look across the court, take a peek, sees that number 23's toe is on the 3-point line. Therefore, this should be a 2-point attempt. And lead can also assist a little bit on this. Now, he's got some matchups in the paint that are competitive with contact, so he may not be able to assist, but they should take a peek as well. If you can assist C or lead, go ahead, stop the game, come and give your information, and then let's make a change. And this is handled very efficiently, quickly. They give the information and make a decision. So this is well handled as far as the help from the C and the lead. Just positioning wide trail, we've all been there where the ball handler is his or her back is to us, and we know it in our heads we're not in a good spot, we need to move, and then every single time it seems like they fire up a 3. So we just need to move maybe a little bit lower. I would work down towards the 28-foot line and look back. You can come onto the court, but that puts you in a tough spot potentially if there's a steal or a block shot where the ball could end up in your lap. So I would work lower, below the 28-foot line, even if you have to get to be where you need to be to see space. That way you can get a good look at this. But ultimately, good help by the crew to change this to a 2-point field goal. On this play, we have a transition play, and the ball will settle on the center side of the floor. So when we're talking about our coverage and our initial positioning, the lead is in excellent position, as is the rest of the crew. And this is discussed on page 169 of the Mechanics Illustrated, and it talks about the lead going right to that lane line, extended on the end line there, so that we can be ready for a dribble drive to assist in the paint and potential secondary defender plays when the ball comes down on center side, as it does here. After it settles and we are now in a front court setup, this coverage is covered on page 153 into 154, which we discussed earlier, that the lead will close down. He's already in a closed down position because that's where he started from as an initial positioning. And then this allows us to rotate effectively because we're already in position to move across the paint. And then this puts us in excellent position to see the resulting contact, and a foul is properly called by the lead. So this is excellent initial position, right at the lane line extended. Maybe work a little bit deeper, but we're in good position to rotate, and this puts us in excellent position to be stationary, view the contact, and rule a foul. And then the center does an excellent job of maintaining her position and officiating the matchup and allowing the lead to make this judgment on the contact. So this is excellent initial positioning, rotation, and then finally excellent positioning at the end to rule on the resulting contact. Well done by the crew. On this play, we have a steal in the middle of the floor and a resulting foul with hard contact at the other half of the floor. And I really like the hustle by the lead and center to get in position to view this contact. This is pretty hard contact, something that we need to make sure we have a presence on, which we do. We're in excellent position at the conclusion of this play. You'll notice that the center closes down, is in the proximity of players. If we have a proximity to the players like we do here, and the lead comes in as well, they're less likely to do something after the whistle that is unnecessary because we're standing there. And then if they do, there's nothing really we can do to help them at that point if they're going to go ahead and do something extracurricular at that point when we have a physical presence as we do here. So this is excellent hustle. We close down on the action and have a presence, and then clear players. And we want to make sure we clear players before we go ahead and report the foul. Coverage on this, couple things. Center officials, as we do here, we have to be aware that on a pick six situation like this, that the trail might have a real hard time getting back. They might be pinned, and so we might have to really bust our tails to get back and help, which we do here. Leads, if it comes from center side and it's not involving a secondary defender, the coverage for that is to allow the center the initial go at it, and that's covered on page 164 of the Mechanics Illustrated. Let this defer to the center, let them have first crack at it. If the center doesn't come up with something on this play, then you can go ahead and have a whistle, but make sure we defer to the center on a play that originates and ends in the center's primary coverage area that's not involving a secondary defender. And then for free throw coverage, or foul reporting rather, page 189 of the Mechanics Illustrated talks about the center will go to table side and then we'll go ahead and shoot the free throws. So overall, this is excellent hustle, coverage, presence, and we clear the players and then report the foul. So this is really well done by the crew, exactly how it should be done mechanically. So in this play, you'll notice we have a transition play type ball game. about a minute to go, and we have a 3-point shot followed by an offensive rebound and right to the basket. So a couple things I want to point out on this play. First of all, excellent hustle and initial positioning by the crew. We're in great position to view everything that occurs in this play. We have a turnover and then a quick pass down court and a kick out to a 3-point attempt. And you'll notice that the offensive rebounder goes right to the basket, and there's some contact with a defender who's grounded in the restricted area. Now I want to point out an exception in the secondary defender restricted arc rule that says that on an offensive rebound, if the rebounder gets the ball and goes right to the basket, there are no secondary defenders by rule. So this defender that she makes contact with in the restricted area, this is judged just like a regular block charge play anywhere on the court. So you notice she has established legal guarding position, 2 feet on the floor facing her opponent. Therefore, she is in legal guarding position. And you have to decide, is this enough contact for an offensive foul or a no call? And I think it was properly no call in this case. But I wanted to point out that this is not a secondary defender restricted arc play because it is an offensive rebound and she goes right to the basket off of the offensive rebound. The other thing to point out in this play is because of the time of the game, make sure that anytime we have a made basket or a timeout or some other stoppage of play like we do here, especially when time is critical, make sure we get eyes on the clock because obviously any amount of time that comes off that shouldn't is critical to the team that is down. So we got to make sure that that is accurate. And we do a good job of getting our eyes to the clock. And then finally reporting the timeout, and that mechanic is covered on page 106 of the Mechanics Illustrated and how to do that. And make sure when we have teams crossing, we don't have much crossing on this play, but if you have them crossing to benches, make sure we have a physical presence, just like we did in the last play, to prevent anything from happening on the play that we don't want to happen. But overall, excellent coverage, mechanics, positioning. Just wanted to point out the rule exception for restricted area, that this is not a restricted area play. This has to be judged as a regular block charge play. On this play, we have a transition play, 3-pointer from bench side, and then a subsequent attempt for the ball on the rebound, the scrum right at the end line there. And you'll notice that the player in white attempts to get at the basketball and undercuts the player from blue and is properly called for a foul by the lead. So if you take a look at page 67 of the rule book, it talks about the fact that a player must not hold, push, charge, trip, or impede the progress of an opponent by extending arms, shoulders, hips, knees, or bending their body in other than a normal position, nor use any rough tactics. So this would qualify under 10.7.1 as illegal contact by number 44 here as he undercuts the player in blue, and he's properly called for a foul. Also note, incidental contact on page 37 says that if a player approaches an opponent from behind or from a position from which he or she has no reasonable chance to play the ball without making contact with the opponent, then the responsibility for the contact is on the player in the unfavorable position. So that's exactly what happens here, and he's properly called for a foul. We can't allow these kind of plays to go without a whistle. This leads to rougher play, and I like the fact that we have a whistle on it, and we're in excellent position, working deep. Very good look at this, and properly called for a foul. So good rules knowledge, positioning, and mechanics. In this play, notice we have another transition play, and you'll see that the lead goes right to the close down position, and we have a block shot. We kill the clock appropriately, hand in the air, and indicate that the offense will maintain possession on the ensuing throw-in. So you'll notice that we have some marginal contact initiated by the offensive player, 21 as a nice block. Not enough contact after the block to warrant a foul, incidental at most, and we're in good position to view this, and we do it from the closed down position. Center is there to help as well, but since this is in the middle of the paint, we can probably defer to the lead on this. Although the mechanics manual does say you can draw a line right down the middle of the lane, so it's in dual coverage area when it's in the middle of the paint like this, and it's not involving a secondary defender. So make sure you talk about this play and how you would handle it mechanically as a crew. But I like that we have a good patient whistle, and we allow number 21 to make an athletic play and a clean block, and there's not enough for a foul or a technical foul for that matter after the block. So this is well handled, good coverage, proper mechanics, and if the C has any information to offer, she can come in and help, but overall we're in good position to view this. Good clean block by number 21, good positioning, hustle, transition by the crew. So another transition play here, really tough contact to judge at the end of this play. We're in good position, lead and center to view this contact and make a ruling on it. Again, this is a type of coverage that we want to talk about with our crew, make sure we're on the same page, because if we end up with a large situation, we can't get out of that, and so we want to make sure that we're on the same page as far as primary coverage and making sure we have just a fist in the air from a calling official or both calling officials so that we can get out of a blard situation. But you'll notice we have really tough contact on this play. Again, take a look at the guarding rule. Talks about 2 feet on the ground facing an opponent, and then you can maintain that legal guarding position legally. And in this case, really tight, slow motion. Looks like he might get 2 feet down. He's still sliding. Hard to see if we get past that torso, which would put the contact on the defensive player. We don't have to be set when contact occurs. Remember that part of the rule. We have to determine if he obtained legal guarding position, then maintained it before contact. But really tough play. If you watch this play 100 times in real speed, you probably would call it a block most of the time. So I don't fault the center for going with block on this play. It is his primary coverage area. We have a drive that originates and finishes from center's primary coverage area, goes to the rack on that side of the rim. So it's his play to take, at least initially, but the only thing I would say is make sure we put a fist in the air, because if the lead decides to ship it as an offensive foul, at least we only have a fist in the air, and then we can get out of a blard situation. Once we signal block and another official signals player control or team control, or the center does it, vice versa, hard to get out of that. So we want to make sure that we put a fist in the air. I like that we're decisive. I like our positioning to view this contact, and I like that we defer to the center. The only thing I would say is fist in the air, and then we can go ahead and sell what we have and report it. Now, take a look at continuous motion. It's on page 31. Our observers have noted that we've struggled with that a little bit. Not saying that we should give free throws here. It talks about Article 2 from Rule 411 says that if an opponent fouls after a player started a try or tap or field goal attempt, he or she is permitted to complete the customary arm movements, and if pivoting or stepping when fouled, may complete the usual foot or body movements. So in this case, I believe that he hasn't started a tap or try at the time of contact, so totally fine with it not being a shooting foul. But for similar plays where we actually have started the act or we are trying to get in the act of shooting but we get tackled, make sure we give free throws on those. Don't reward the defense for committing that foul. But in this case, I'm fine with it being a throw-in. It doesn't look like he started that arm movement when contact occurs. But a couple things, get a fist in the air, defer to the center, but if we have 2 whistles, make sure we have communication, and then the primary coverage official can report whatever we come up with to the table. On this play, another transition play, Trail hustles up the court to get in position, And you notice that the offensive player does not continue in a straight line towards the goal, initiates the contact towards the defensive player, ultimately pushing her to the floor, and is properly called for an offensive foul. The ward off by number 5 there with an extended arm is illegal contact by the offensive player, and this is properly called. The defensive player can try to establish legal guardian position and maintain it, and if contact does not occur in that straight path by the dribbler, they have to find another way to go. They can't go through the defender as we do here. If she continues in a straight line and now the defender is initiating the contact, now the contact would be on the defensive player. But in this case, offensive player not continuing a straight line, extends the arm into the chest of the defensive player and is properly called for an offensive foul. Okay, that will do it for training tape number 2. Thanks for your attention and your work. Hopefully you had a nice holiday break and you're all recharged and ready to go for the stretch run here. We have a couple months to go. Keep yourself healthy, stretch, eat right, all those kind of things that I don't do very well, but we all can work on. And that way we'll be ready to go come March, and we'll still be in good physical condition. So thanks for looking at these plays. Again, make sure you communicate with your crewmates, have a good pregame, talk about coverage, mechanics, philosophy, and how you're going to do it as a crew so you're on the same page for that night in that particular game, and not necessarily for a whole season. You know, even though we strive for that, we want to follow the Mechanics Illustrated. Our goal is to be as consistent mechanically and philosophy speaking and rule-wise as a crew on each particular given night. So we're doing a great job so far. Keep it up, and we'll talk to you next week.